Welcome to the Accounting Working Group podcast, October 21, brought to you by the Wall Street Blockchain Alliance. I'm your host, Stein Smith, Dr. Stein Smith, and actually here on our October podcast, I have a very interesting individual here on the show with me, David Pope, who is a blockchain expert, crypto expert, manages his own firm, and also is the co-founder of the Wyoming Blockchain Coalition. So I'm going to hand it over to him for a brief introduction of himself, his firm, and all of that good stuff. David, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. It's wonderful to be here. As you said, I'm David Pope, and I am the co-founder of the Wyoming Blockchain Coalition. We started the Wyoming Revolution in blockchain about 4 years ago now in 2017. I've been an accountant for 33 years. I've had my own firm since 1996, and actually that has blossomed into 4 firms, 3 in Wyoming and 1 in Colorado, and we serve roughly about 4,000 clients across all 50 states and in several foreign countries.
Pretty busy then, I guess, huh?
Yes, I have an absolutely wonderful staff because, frankly, I am off doing the blockchain thing and enjoying helping that industry evolve and become all it can be. So my staff is great.
Excellent stuff. And so to hone in on that blockchain stuff, as you so put it, David, actually just I guess now it's what, 2.5 weeks ago, I had the great opportunity actually to fly out to Wyoming and to be a part of the Wyoming Blockchain Hackathon for the current year. And I know that I have my own sort of comments and insights really based on my time out there, but I wanted to really sort of almost get a insider's point of view as to how it all sort of came together, how it went, and then any other feedback after the fact that you and the other conference organizers have actually got it.
Oh, wow. The hackathon is great. It's held every year at the University of Wyoming. This is the 4th year for it as well. And it's an incredible experience. The university is one of the true, I guess, forward-thinking institutions in the United States, because they have a blockchain program, and through their business school, they've got a blockchain program through their computer sciences side. And the wonderful thing was in 2018. So I guess it's 18, 19, 20, and 21. So this is the 4th year it's happened, and it's just blossomed. But the first year we had the hackathon, it was thrown together, and it just through providence, it happened, and people came from all over the world. My favorite story, I was at the hackathon, and a young man came up to me and introduced himself, and he was from Africa, and he had taken his ridden his bike to the bus station, taken a bus station to one of the cities, and then flew some crazy amount of time, total time traveling about 36 hours just to get to Wyoming. And it was the first time he had been to Wyoming, and it was just a pleasure seeing him. And then it's grown even from there. Last year was an odd year because of the pandemic, where everything was done remotely. But the whole function, the whole celebration grows every year. And Wyoming, and that's one of the reasons and how Wyoming maintains its edge over most of the other states in the legislative and industry area.
No, and I mean that I have to also just add in there, David, that honestly, it was my first trip out there as well. And, it's a absolutely beautiful state with tons of, excellent places to go see and awfully bright people out there too. And so to hop on a comment of yours, trying to talk about the law-making process out there, right? From a policymaker point of view, regulator point of view. I know you, I, and a whole other host of individuals had the opportunity to actually provide actual testimony, right, to the permanent committee focusing on blockchain and other innovative platforms like that. And so, how is that, right? Because obviously here on the East Coast, it's kind of dominated by the firms out of Wall Street and the policymakers down in Washington. So how is that having sort of that level of direct access to policymakers who, by all outward evidence, are quite open to these ideas and trying to integrate blockchain and crypto into the current laws and current frameworks out there?
Well, I'm going to back up for just a moment to piggyback on one of your comments about Wyoming. There still is an active hashtag, I believe, out there on Twitter that Wyoming doesn't really exist, and it is just a myth in everyone's imagination. And I tell you, if my imagination were real as to the place I wanted to live, it would be Wyoming. And so I guess it is, in a way, a mythical place, and I love it tremendously, and I love the people, and I love the freedom that you experience here. So the legislative process, in the beginning, of course, nobody knew about blockchain. We had a couple of legislators that knew about cryptocurrency and a little bit about blockchain. But what we had to do in the beginning was a lot of education. And that's where Wyoming is great as far as its legislature. It is a small state, a small legislature, and the legislature itself only meets once a year. And it's, I think it's 20 days during a budget session and then 40 days in a regular session. So there's not a lot of time to have legislation passed. So all of the work on the legislation has to be done in the off season, through various committees and task forces and select committees. So those committees meet around the state. In the beginning, there was not a committee that was dedicated to this. And also we got started late in the year. That was in 2017, coming up on the 2018 legislative session. And so we had 5 or 6 bills that year that me and the coalition, the rest of the coalition, wanted to see pass. So we had to go to a lot of legislators in a very short period of time and do a lot of teaching then. What they saw was a way to economically diversify in Wyoming. Our coal industry and our minerals industry, which is the backbone of the state finances, they are decreasing in value because of the political winds right now. And so that's what they saw, and so they embraced this as a potential way to make some of those changes in our economic landscape. So that was interesting. But what the legislature did after passing the initial set of bills was create a task force. I served on that task force for the first year of its existence, and we got an incredible amount done, and that includes the special purpose depository institution and some of the other legislation that defined digital assets and moved them into our property law, and gave this great framework to the industry here. So and then from the task force, that morphed into a select committee that is now still sitting, and they're examining everything in relation to digital assets, including digital identity, NFTs. They created the DAO LLC, so you could have a structure and framework to something that is essentially unstructured, and so that gives an option to people who are organizing the DAOs to structuralize it and formalize it. So that was wonderful in itself, and that just happened this year. And next, we're looking at, as you know, the whole real estate framework within the subject of digital assets. So the legislators themselves, some of them know a lot about it now, some of them don't know much, and we are still getting bills passed with maybe one or two people voting against them, one or two legislators voting against them. Very little resistance at this point.
Okay. Gotcha. But I mean, that whole conversation and educational process, as you had outlined earlier, has to be done with, I think, a good blend of, on the one hand, patience, but on the other hand, urgency, right? Because obviously, the whole blockchain crypto asset space is not just here in the US. And so it's important, on the one hand, from a economic point of view, to try to sort of get out in front of these things to make sure that our policies make good economic sense, and to try to help ensure that issues like individual privacy, consumer privacy, and basically the integrity around data stored on the blockchain is actually upheld, right? And so I would argue that, I know that I was there for, I guess, day 2 of the hearings of the permanent committee, and I was quite impressed by the knowledge and the level of conversation going on. But all of that only happens after a ton of upfront work has been done. And so probably the other area that I kind of wanted to sort of get your feedback on is that, obviously, the Wyoming Hackathon probably was originally a hackathon type of event. And while all of that was still happening during the year, there were a whole bunch of other options out there. There was a law track, a finance track, which I had the opportunity to be a part of, and more of a sort of business enterprise track. And so how did all of that sort of come to be? Was there a interest in the community to have more options out there to try to broaden the base, or were individuals actually asking for topics in these areas? I'm just curious, personally.
Well, and that's a great point, and that's one of the things that the hackathon, the Wyoming Stampede, has to address in the future, is that I've had some comments that whereas it started out as a hackathon with a few speakers associated with it, has it morphed into a conference with a hackathon attached. And
Okay.
I think that's a fair question going forward, is what does it want to be? The
Mhm.
hackathon still successful, still drew teams from far away, but we also have these three other tracks: FinCon, BizCon, and LawCon. And I think what the organizers felt was that Wyoming has so much to offer as far as the legal and business landscape within this industry, that that we need to teach that. We need
Mhm.
to help people understand that. And I think through those three tracks, we're beginning to be successful with that. We're going to be able to hone in on what the market wants to learn about Wyoming and present it. The FinCon had a healthy dose of accounting associated with it. And this was, and thanks to you, it was expertly guided. It was a pretty incredible track. But what was interesting about it was that there were very few CPAs in those classes,
Mhm.
because all of the business owners, business startups, they need to know this stuff. And they
Mhm.
need to know, operating in Wyoming and operating within the United States, which is the blend of what we try to provide. It's very important for them to understand that and to have that feedback and context with which to run their businesses.
Absolutely. I mean, every entrepreneur, every uh, business owner has to know how to, one, make the books, and two, understand them. And so ultimately, I mean, having that extra breadth, extra content, extra types, or extra types of individuals offering their own expertise, their own angles on blockchain, onboarding, crypto, asset questions, I think really sort of rounded out the event. And so to wrap up our conversation here, if you had to give one piece of advice or insight to anybody, right? Policymaker, entrepreneur, business owner, crypto investor, as to how to best try to get more people on board, right? Try to get the business owners, get the policymakers educated and on board. And obviously, all of that is a ongoing conversation that has to happen. But one piece of advice or insight based on your own personal firsthand experience of doing this kind of stuff, uh, would you be able to give one piece of advice?
If I were trying to coach people on how to bring people into this sphere, this industry, and to help them understand it, I would say don't shy away from the bad side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to make it all sound pie in the sky and all is great and all will stay great. Recognize the fact that there are bad people out there that use this, and explain what the
Mm-hmm.
industry is doing, and to mitigate it, and how they won't be able to operate that way for very long. Um, Understand that this is a major upheaval in the use of
Mm-hmm.
systems within throughout the world, not just within the United States, and help them understand that, but help them to also understand that once we come out the other side, this is fantastic and a great thing for the world, and that, you know, the politically even, the left and the right are always struggling with how to more effectively distribute resources and ensure the adequate distribution of resources between all socioeconomic paths. Politically, this technology allows that to happen at an incredible level and boost the outcomes for everyone, not just the rich, not just the economically challenged. It is for everyone, and it will benefit everyone.
Excellent outlook there, and honestly, probably the best way that I've heard personally is to try to pitch it to politicians, which, as we all know, are always open to new ideas. But
yes.
but that's a very delicate way to wrap up our conversation, David. No, but as always, David, it was a absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. It was an awesome time out in Wyoming on the ground, because I've heard about it, but it was the first time that I had the opportunity to be out there, to meet you in person, to really feel the energy and interest and the passion for blockchain and crypto as a tool for really positive outcomes and improved outcomes for, as you outlined, everybody. And so, David, it was a blast having you on the podcast. Gonna have to have you back on here to have a follow-up conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, and thank you for coming out to Wyoming and joining us and presenting and speaking to the legislature and all of that. It was wonderful, and I'm hoping to see you back here again.
Absolutely. It was an awesome time. And David, I will have to have you back on again. David Pope, guest on the October Accounting Working podcast. Have a great day.